LPL presents Fabricadabra. Hello, my name is Michelle, and today we're going to make an envelope style clutch. You should have two pieces of fabric that are 12 inches by 18 inches. Other materials you will need include a straight edge and a pair of scissors, as well as a sewing machine and/or needle and thread. The first thing we're going to do is make sure our two pieces of fabric are the same size. As we see, mine are not the same size, so I'm going to cut it so that the pieces are the same length. We're also going to put our fabric right sides together. I'm going to show you that in just a second, where you can see the outward facing material is on the inside, and so that's good to go. Well, we're going to take our fabric and fold it like a paper airplane on the short side to meet in the middle, and then use an iron to press the fabric into a shape that we're later going to cut. You don't have to use an iron, but it does make it a lot easier to see where you need to cut the fabric to make it be a little point for the top of the purse. This is the top of the purse we're working with. All right, so now I'm going to take the scissors and I'm going to cut along the crease all the way to the corner. And I'm flipping this stuff around so you can see better, and cut straight down along the seam. So then you'll have like a triangular piece sort of at the top, and then it'll go down and make it look like a little house. All right, so that's all done. I smooth it out, make sure everything is even. All right, so now we're going to begin to sew. What we're going to do is we're going to fold over the edge of the fabric about 1/4 inch and then fold it again so that those raw edges are underneath, like I'm doing now. Kind of pinch it, and then we're going to start sewing. Here we go. You're going to sew like this all the way around your fabric until you get to the side that's opposite of the triangular point we made earlier. The biggest thing about that edge along the bottom is that you need about a 3 or 4 inch space in the little hem we're making so that we can turn the bag inside out. So here I am sewing one point side. Then you leave the needle down and turn the fabric, and then begin sewing again down the long edge here, the straight edge. And it may take you a little while to stop and adjust your material. That's okay. Sometimes while you're sewing, the fabric can get a little crazy. So here I am sewing down the edge. Okay, almost to the bottom. I slowed down my machine a little bit. It was going a little too fast. And this next part is the part that you're gonna see me kind of skip a little bit. We're gonna fold it down, fold the hem about 1/4 inch. I'm using the sewing machine here to sort of hold the hem in place for me so that I can then roll the rest of the side down. I sewed a little bit and I lifted the presser foot. I'm just going to move the fabric through the machine like I'm doing right here. And then we're going to put the presser foot down and start sewing just like we left off. Going down. All right, and so now we're going to sew up the other long edge of the bag. So I'm rotating my fabric. We're going to make our little hem 1/4 inch. And I'm using the presser foot to smush it for me so it'll hold it. And I put the needle down into the fabric for a little extra grip. And now we're going to sew up the long edge on the other side of the bag. After this edge, there's only one more pointy edge to go, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next step. Oh, it didn't quite take. No, I'm adjusting the hem so that it can fold over and do the last piece. All right, here we go. If you like, after you're done sewing this hem, you can trim the part of the fabric that is on the left side of the seam, or the inside, so that there's less material on the inside of the bag to weigh it down. And I'm doing a little back stitch here toward the point to make sure that it stays sewn together, because that's going to be the flap for our the closing of our bag. Okay, so we're all done with that. Now we're going to move on to flipping our bag right side out. So here I am. You just take the little hole we made earlier, or where we skipped sewing, and you just turn it like a sock. When you turn your socks right side out, it's similar. You just pull until it looks like a bag. You can also use a point turner or a pen, P-E-N cap, or a pencil to make sure that the sharp edges, the corners of the bag, are turned the way we need them to be. So that's what I'm doing right here. I'm sort of putting my hand in the bag and sticking my finger through so that we can get those points nice and pointy, so that there's not fabric stuck in the bag on those areas. You can also press at this step if you would like. I chose not to. And you just follow the seam and make sure the seam is even and is laying where you can see only one fabric on one side and the other fabric on the other. Sort of make it even. That's what I'm doing here. I'm kind of rolling the seam and poking the corners out. And now you can see the shape of our bag. Good to go. All right, so now we're going to close up the hole in our bag. So you see how it looks like a little mouth. You just sew that. It's the top stitch. And on this step, we're going to fold the bag about 9 inches, or until the bag bottom reaches where the point begins for the top. So you see how I have it here where it looks kind of like an envelope, right? So now on the sewing machine, to do the final stitching, we're going to do a zigzag stitch, which on my machine is a stitch 8. And you can see here I have the 2 edges of the side of the bag, and I make sure that you can't see the liner fabric at all before we put it in the machine. So that's what I'm doing here. And you want to sew on the edge of the bag to where the zigzag stitch is at the very, very edge of the purse. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm kind of moving it around so you can see. You make sure that the little mouth is closed and you can't see. In my case, you can't see any of the bright blue fabric. You can only see the brocade on the outside. And now we're going to start sewing. You can see the shadow on my finger. You can see the zigzag because the shadow is moving left and right like that. That's what the sewing machine does when it does a zigzag stitch. And you can see it kind of come out the machine where it's right on the edge. You could even go over the edge to where closest to the edge you can get, the better. So you go all the way down. And then we're going to do that same thing on the other side, all the way down. And there you go. Enjoy your new purse.